Welcome into another episode of The Extra Yard on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by Prize Picks, Daily Fantasy Simplified, and BetterEdge.com. Sign up at BetterEdge.com/5Reasons for a $20 gift just for signing up. Alex Donno alongside former Miami Dolphin Troy Stradford. Troy, before we got on live, you had just the undershirt on, and you were flashing the gun show. How old are you now? Because you're not a day over 40, right? You're in tremendous shape.
Day over 40.
Look, a day over 40.
Donno, I really don't know.
You don't know?
I struggle with this because I stopped counting years ago.
What year were you born? That'll help me count it down.
But then I would exactly know, and I don't want to exactly know.
So you don't want to know is the issue. You'd rather be ignorant.
Correct. So I think it's 57 or 58, somewhere around there. I could be wrong, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, listen, man. How often do you work out?
I just started working out again last week. So I'm trying to. It's so tough, and a lot of former players that I speak to, they talk about the same thing, where it's so hard. Like, you used to do it every day.
Yeah.
You used to work out in your sleep. And once you step away from the game and you're younger, you continue to work out. But as you get older, you sit there and say, but then you go one day to work out and you sit there and say, I feel fantastic. Why don't I work out more? So it's just a mental struggle with me right now.
I like it. Well, we'll get back into it. Want to thank everyone who's taken time out of your day to watch us here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network YouTube page, or if you're listening to us on the 3 Yards Per Carry podcast feed. If you're listening on the audio version, make sure you subscribe to 3 Yards Per Carry if you haven't already. And if you're watching us, make sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to 5 Reasons Sports on YouTube. So, Troy, the next big benchmark we look at for the NFL is going to be the draft later this month. This is obviously on paper not the most exciting draft for the Miami Dolphins, because not only do they only have 4 picks right now, because all those exciting trades that we've made have cost us draft picks. So we only have 4 picks at this moment. None of them are in the first round. So the Dolphins have in round 2 the 51st overall pick, and you can definitely get a very good player, obviously, in the second round. Dolphins have gotten good players before in the third round as well, where they have the 84th pick.
In the fourth round as well.
Yeah, well, we don't have a 4th round pick this year, so hopefully all the players in the 4th round suck. We don't have to worry about any of them. So you've got for second round, third round, you got a 6th round pick, and you've got a 7th round pick this year. So I guess the first question would be this, and I know that a lot of Dolphin fans wouldn't want to hear this. Is it possible, if you just want to play the numbers game, that maybe you package your 2nd round pick or the 2nd and 3rd round pick and trade down to acquire maybe more 3rd day picks just to play the numbers game? Because, rarely does a year go by. I don't know when the last time was that the Dolphins didn't make some sort of a trade during the draft, whether it be up or down. I have to wonder if they might even consider making a deal to compile just a higher quantity of picks.
I'm more in line with, let's trade down and get more.
Yeah.
As opposed to trading up, because then it becomes so much weight put on that player. I'm not saying that the player feels that, but look how many guys teams miss on early in the draft. And again, I look at the whole system of college football, how guys play, where they play, how the system is set up for them to succeed. And then they get to the National Football League, and all of a sudden, they're not that same player that they were in college. So I'm more abundance. Give me a lot, so that, because I'm going to miss on a couple.
Yeah.
So give me a lot, and I'll see what I can do.
So when I think about Dolphins team needs, in my humble opinion, the most glaring team need that to this point has not been addressed in free agency, perhaps they can address this in the draft, is right tackle, right? That to me, because I don't have a whole lot of faith in Austin Jackson, and there's Lamb, one other one I think that the Dolphins have for depth. Like I don't have a lot of faith in right tackle, and obviously every
Right.
position on the offensive line is important. But when you've got the only left-handed quarterback in the NFL, I think right tackle is a more important job in Miami than it is in any of the other 31 teams out there. So that might be, if you do keep that second round pick, that might be where you look to spend it. Find a starting caliber right tackle of the future.
You know, the Miami Dolphins offensively, when you look at the offensive line, not only right tackle, you have to be solid at left tackle, right?
Right.
Because of the potential of Tua missing games, and all of the backups are right-handed quarterbacks. So they're in a little bit of a pickle there. They got to be solid on the bookends on that offensive line to really be successful. And we could go through it. You know, the Cincinnati Bengals with, you know, their young quarterback, his rookie year, they didn't protect him well. Second year, they didn't really protect him. Then they went out and they fortified that, right?
Yeah.
The Jacksonville Jaguars in the draft, I think they picked 23 or 24. They better solidify their offensive line also for Trevor Lawrence, because when you get your quarterback, you got to build a wall around him. You got to put quality talent in front of him to protect him. And I think the Miami Dolphins are in that same situation. So when it comes to this draft, I don't even know if the Miami Dolphins are having a big draft day at the stadium like they always do, or like they usually do.
Yeah.
But they need to just, it's not going to be sexy. It's not going to be the flashy wide receiver, running back, quarterback. It's going to be the interior on this football team to solidify that football team. And the best thing about it is that means that the Miami Dolphins, in my opinion, they don't have a lot of holes that they need to fill that other teams are like salivating for, right?
Right.
Not the sexy pick. They need the guy that we probably haven't heard about that's going to come in there and that's going to be a little pissed off that he dropped into the second round or he dropped into the third round. And the coaching staff is going to get them in shape. And, you know, that's the player I'm expecting that the Miami Dolphins are going to select.
So right now, you know, the projected starters for next year on the offensive line, Teron Armstead at left tackle. You talk about the importance of a left tackle. When healthy, he's one of the best in the NFL. Like
Yes.
we say that about so many players, right? We say that about the quarterback. We say it about the left tackle he's had injury issues the last few years, including last year in Miami. But gosh, when Teron Armstead is on the field,
Yeah.
Troy,
Everything works.
he makes as much of a difference as Tua does when he's healthy. Like honestly,
Isn't
like
that amazing?
it is amazing.
Isn't that amazing? Like we fall in love with individuals, right? And again, back to the quarterback, the running back, the wide receiver, the flashy guys, flashy positions. But when it comes to a team, they need to anchor down major roles. They need protection for their quarterbacks. And it's not going to be sexy for the Miami Dolphins. It needs to be productive for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, so Teron Armstead at left tackle, Liam Eichenberg at left guard, who I'm not a huge fan of, but and it's always easier to play next to Teron Armstead, especially when you're between two really solid players, because Connor Williams at center is really good. I like him. Robert Hunt at right guard, love Hunt. Then Austin Jackson, projected starter at right tackle. Just I've never. Oh man, Denver needs to go back to obedience school. What's going on there to get that training again? So
he's pushing my patience right now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But it's cool. We love Denver here on the show. So I was looking at this piece by Daniel Oyefusi in the Miami Herald talking about some of the offensive tackles that the Dolphins could target. Guys who could go second or third round. If the Dolphins do end up trading down or for whatever reason not addressing the offensive line until the third day, there could be some intriguing third day options. But when you draft guys 4th through 7th round, you're looking at projects. Like, you're not looking at guys who are guaranteed future starters. You're looking at guys where you think, okay, I think this guy's really underrated, so let's take a flyer.
I don't call them projects. I call them guys who don't measure up like some of the studs.
Right.
Like they're either too short, too light, and so they slip for some reason. Some may have had an issue in college when it comes to just how they carried themselves. They didn't score high. There's so much that goes into it. And I think all of these players are damn good,
Right.
because how many gems do we see that get drafted late and they'll go on to be stars in the National Football League? You just have to have a complete scouting staff, a good scouting staff, and they got to find that diamond in the rough, so to speak, and they got to come up and hit. And you hope that you get hungry guys. Like that's when I really look back on what I should have done after football. It should have been getting into scouting. Like I think I have a pretty good eye.
Yeah, you would have been good at that.
I think I have a pretty good eye on spotting talent across the board. So, but that page is already gone.
Well, you're not a day over 40, so it's never too late. Right?
Yeah.
By the way, hello to Andy from Scotland, Andy Cornell, who's listening. He says, just tuned in. I'm not confident about our O-line yet again. Now that wasn't really an issue when you played, right, Troy? The O-line used to be pretty good for these Miami Dolphins in the 80s and 90s, but really since the early 2000s, like last 20, there's been a couple of decent lines here and there, like when Richie Incognito was on the line and they had a few.
Right.
They had a couple years where the lines were pretty good, but overall for the last 20 years, like how many times have we said the Dolphins O-line just needs work, and no matter how much they try to fix it and no matter how many first rounders they draft, they've never been able to fix it.
I think the biggest key when it comes to offensive linemen and talking to the guys like Richmond Webb and Keith Sims, communication is the key. So the message has to be delivered. And then there has to be a relationship because it's all technique. You can make yourself, you don't have to be the best, most athletic guy. You can make yourself a quality offensive lineman in the National Football League if you have communication, excellent communication with the guy that's on your right or the guy that's on your left. Denver, I got to put him out.
Go ahead and put him out. No, and that makes so much sense what Troy is saying. And you guys may know I also host Locked On Canes on the Locked On Podcast Network, and we talk about the Miami Hurricanes offensive line, which is they look a lot more talented than they've been over the last couple of years. But it's all about finding that chemistry, Troy. That in order for an offense, like you can have a collection of really talented 5 starters, but they have to work as a unit. If they're not working in unison, the O-line can still be a disaster, even if you have good players on it.
I listen to Coach McDaniel, right? And he sits there and he talks about the development of Tua and how he saw that he was perfect, like putting a puzzle together. Mm-hmm. He's perfect for what I want to do. And he tweaked some things and changed some things after putting his eyes on them. So I think the Miami Dolphins overall as a coaching staff, I think they do a good job at that. They don't they don't try and fit you into something. They look at what they have and then they try and fit everything together, if that makes sense. They sit there and say, all right, what are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? And we have to coach to that. And I think that's the sign of a quality football team, coaching staff.
Well, when I think back at the Dolphins' offensive line troubles, I remember covering Adam Gase when he was the Dolphins' head coach. And I can remember, and I don't remember, because sometimes Gase was actually pretty cool with the media because he would do these like off-the-record sessions with us. So I can't remember if this was something he said on the record or off the record, but it's been like 6 years. So I think there's a statute of limitations or 7 years. So, but I can remember because Troy, like you read the local papers and stuff, and obviously like the local media down here, the people who are in the weeds covering the team every day, every year, they're pretty obsessed with the fact that the Dolphins have had a lot of trouble fixing the offensive line, especially finding guards. Like the Dolphins have really struggled to get good guards in here. And so they always write about it. I remember Adam Gase, this may have been on the record, may have been off the record, I can't remember, but I remember him kind of joking with the media. It's like, why are you guys always writing about guards? Like, we're not going to have any problem finding guard. Like, we're going to fix the guard. Like, he was basically like, like you guys, it's not that hard to find guards, he was saying. And then yet Gase's entire, like, he basically laughed at us for like, why are you guys so obsessed with guards? Who do you talk about guards? And then he could never find a good guard when he was here.
Guards are hard to find. They have to be agile, right? They got to be athletic. A little bit more than your tackle. Your tackle got to be like an anchor. You just got to be like a boat sitting out there, not allowing people to get around. They don't ask the tackle to pull and block someone on the move often. But those guards, they got a complicated job sitting in there, and they need to be athletic. And often you don't find those athletic guys. They got to have good feet and good hands. You know what I mean? I mean, all offensive linemen have to have that. But I think it's harder to find a guard, even though on paper, the tackles make the most money because they're protecting that quarterback's backside. The guards, man, they do some grunt work. They do really, really, really hard work inside.
The position you played used to be a much more like premium position, talking about running backs. Is it kind of frustrating following the game these days where I feel like, and there are obviously some who have really stood out. And maybe it's just the way every team schemes up and the way players use, but running back is more of like a recyclable position. Like, it's hard to make it into your late 20s in the NFL. And these guys don't make the big money usually because they end up getting like cut and moved around a lot more. Like, the game has changed a lot. Because Troy, when I was growing up, if you were a star running back, back in my day, that was like one of the most premium positions on the field. Now they don't get a whole lot of credit these days.
The NFL has changed. They used to run the ball a lot more than they do nowadays. And so now you really have that running game just as a complementary piece to keep other teams honest. Like, all right, we will run the football every now and then. And then when running backs started getting hurt, often, you don't have the Tony Dorsett's, the Franco Harris's, those guys that could carry the ball, 30 times in a game. And it went to this 2 running back scheme. Like, one guy who's a little bit tougher than the other guy or bigger than the other guy, we'll use him on running downs. But because we throw the ball so much, that running back better have good hands where he can actually catch the ball. It's funny. I was at an event the other day with Doug Flutie, and I haven't seen him in, I don't know, maybe like 10 years. So it was good seeing him.
Nice.
And we sat there, and he said, and I said it back to him. He said, man, if you were playing in the NFL right now, you'd be like gold.
Yeah.
Not money wise, but just the way you caught the ball, and the way you ran, you'd be playing like gold. That's like Doug. Mm-hmm. Back when we came out, little quarterbacks couldn't survive in the National Football League. I said, if you were playing right now, you would be gold, and you would be like a hot commodity, no doubt about that.
Both of you guys were born a couple decades too early, I guess, huh?
Too early. Yeah, I'm mad at my mom. I'm mad at my dad. They had me too early.
You should have waited a couple decades. Come on.
Yeah, they should have.
Oh man, no, but what was? And yeah, I think like the last time the Dolphins had like a true featured back was probably Ricky Williams the first go around, like the first, like, but before the hiatus, because when he came back it was Ricky and Ronnie, but the first go around, I remember in those days, Troy, it was odd when Ricky's backup was on the field. Like if Ricky took a play off, you're like, oh, Ricky's catching a breather. That's odd. He was carrying like 35, 40 times a game sometimes.
Ricky, let me tell you, Ricky was, he was my favorite running back for the Miami Dolphins that I enjoyed watching. He didn't get hurt. He ran the ball hard. He had all the skills. I love the way Ricky played. And I have a good friend who is good friends with Ricky. And I'm like, so how's Ricky doing? Oh, Ricky's just living out there in California. He's like, just puffing away. He's
in the business, isn't he?
He's in the business now. Yeah. He's in the marijuana business. So good for Ricky. He's living the life that he was always one of those guys that's like, I don't want to fit into your little hole. You know, I'm
Right.
going to be who I am, who I want to be, and I'm going to be true to that. And so hats off to him because, so many of us, and I'm guilty of it also, we want to live up to an image or we want to act a certain way or we want to do things to Ricky's like, man, I'm doing what I want to do. This is what I want to do. I'm going to do it. So I respect that immensely. I do.
By the way, I want to say hello to Cap for Life and to GA Kane fan. And he says he's got a few of your rookie cards. He said, do you have any idea how much
39 cents. Somewhere around there.
Hey, that's something, right? 39 cents.
It's something. I can't retire on that, but it's something. I want to say hi to Andy. He's always. Am I reading that correct? He's from Scotland.
He's from Scotland. Yeah.
That's
great dude who just.
How did you become a Dolphin fan living way over in Scotland?
That's a great question. Yeah, Andy, because I feel like I've asked Andy this before, but years ago, I don't remember how he became it. So if you want to say it again, Andy, how you became a Dolphin fan, please put it there in the chat because it's always. I know he travels a lot, so maybe he was like in Miami one weekend. He's like, "Hey, this looks like a cool team," but I don't know how he became a fan. Caesar Diaz, hello to you. Thank you so much for joining us. So real quick, I want to talk about some Dolphins offensive line options, but I want to remind you guys, we got the championship game tonight. I know, I'm a little bit bitter that my Hurricanes are not in it, but they got beaten by UConn was the better team, unfortunately.
Yes.
I don't have Miami could have played better, but I don't have too many regrets because they just got beaten by the better team. But if you want to make the championship game tonight more enjoyable, I would highly suggest making some plays on Prize Picks, right? Because Troy, I probably wouldn't be watching that game tonight because I think UConn's going to steamroll San Diego State, but I'm going to be watching it for my Prize Pick selections tonight. After watching both of these teams pretty closely throughout the tournament, so you just go to the Prize Picks mobile app or PrizePicks.com. This combines my love for daily fantasy and for parlays. It's really easy to sign up. And when you sign up and make your first deposit, make sure to use our code 5. That's FIVE. Because if you use our code 5, they're going to double your first deposit up to $100. So you deposit $100, you're going to get an extra $100 of free play money right there in your account. And so, Troy, one thing that I am incredibly confident in is that Adama Sanogo, who is just a monster for UConn, is going to score more than 15.5 points tonight. His number, Sanogo, who, may end up being the outstanding player of this tournament, depending on how tonight goes. He's at 15.5. So I think he's going to go over that. I'm also thinking about, and I know that San Diego State has a really good defense, but this is a different animal now with UConn. I'm also thinking of hitting the over on Jordan Hawkins over 14.5, because I've got to think 2 days removed from the Final Four, his flu-like symptoms are probably getting better because he was a little under the weather against Miami. Didn't really look like himself, but I think he's going to bounce back big time. So I'm pretty confident in the dynamic duo of Hawkins and Sanogo, both going over their numbers, 14.5 for Sanogo, 15.5 scoring for Hawkins. And I could probably think about the rebounding number for Sanogo as well, because this is like taking candy from a baby. Eight. He said he's gonna have 8 rebounds at 8 minutes into the game. He's gonna have a rebound per minute tonight. He's gonna have 4. Sanogo over 8 rebounds. That's probably even better.
You're doing a good job of convincing me. Now I'm thinking about all right, let me take Donald's advice and go on there and place a little wager.
Yeah, and an important thing to keep in mind about Prize Picks is, first of all, you're winning real money, right? You simply select 2, 3, 4, 5 players and just predict if they're going to go over or under their various stat projections, and you win real money, 3 times, 10 times, 20 times your money back, depending on how many players you select. It's addicting and it's a lot of fun. And it's really easy to sign up, and you can go cross sport, right? So you've got a couple players in the championship game tonight. You want to select a couple players from the NBA slate. You can put those right into your selections. That makes it even more fun. So sign up with our code 5. That's FIVE for a first deposit match of up to $100 at prizepicks.com or the Prize Picks mobile app. Prize Picks truly is daily fantasy made easy. And I've been doing pretty good, Troy, on this tournament.
Baseball has started, so
oh,
you
yeah.
have a lot more.
By the way, your Mets humiliated
Yes.
my Marlins over the weekend.
Yeah, they did.
I know you went to opening day. Did you go to any of the other ones?
No, that was it. I was invited on Saturday, but I sat it out and I just watched it on TV. Matter of fact, when I get off, I'm getting ready to turn on Major League, what is it, MLB channel.
I don't even know if I get that channel. That's how into baseball I am. I don't even know if I get the channel.
Yeah, I get that channel, and they play the Brewers today. So, but real quick, I just a little side note when it comes to my passion with baseball. The last 2 years, I had the package where I watched every Met game, and last year, it just took my breath away what the Phillies did. You know, the Mets were the hottest team with the Braves all season long, but then the Phillies, they make a trade, they get healthy at the end of the season, and they end up like going to the World Series. And I said, I'm not investing 162 games anymore. I said, I will see the Mets when they come on. Otherwise, I'll watch the highlights the next day.
That's probably a good way to look at it. Because again, like to pay for the package and try to watch your team play 162 times, like it's like we have lives. You probably got nothing done. Like you were watching the Mets all day, every day. Like what can you do?
I enjoyed it though. I'm a baseball lover. Like I love baseball.
Hold on, but isn't one of the reasons why football is the greatest sport is it's scarce? Right, because you only like
everything
in the NFL,
means something.
Everything means something more. Like in the NFL, you're playing 17 regular season. It used to be 16, used to be 14. You know, the NFL.
Donno, that's what bothers me about the other sports.
Yeah,
it's okay to lose.
Right, it's okay to lose every now and then. Right, if you lose in football, it's a crisis.
Yeah, it's okay to take a night off. Like what the hell?
Yeah,
like, football once a week. Everyone's coming out to see it. Everyone's watching it, and every game has an importance on it, and that just means a little bit more to me.
And college football even more. Like that's one of the reasons why I get so into that, right? I mean, back in the days when my Hurricanes used to contend for championships, like if you lost one, like my world was over. Like when you lost one game, it's like, we may not get into the championship game.
Absolutely. Yep.
So great. By the way, Andy gave us the tale of how in Scotland he became a Dolphins fan. He says that they came on Channel 4 in the UK in 1984. That must be a thing because I know that they're like the Dolphins have quite a few fans in the UK. So I'm guessing that must have been a thing. Like Dan Marino in the glory days, they probably put them on TV a lot. So that must have been a thing there. And then he writes, had been to Miami on holiday. Miami Vice was the coolest show. Amen to that.
It was. Yeah.
Still is. I mean, I don't think they've done anything better since then. First game I saw was Dolphins versus Steelers and was mesmerized by Marino's passes. I can't blame you for that. He says, cool uniforms and stadium with palm trees. What's not to like, he says, that he was 11 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. I fell in love with the Dolphins almost the same way. I was only in New Jersey. I watched the Miami Dolphins playing the New York Jets, and I'm sitting there, they're playing down here, and I go, wow, it was all cold up north. I go, look at that. Like, I didn't have a clue of, like, Miami back then. You know, I was just I grew up in Linden, New Jersey. I knew all Linden. My life that was it. I go, man, they got a dolphin in the end zone. They got palm trees down there. I said, I like their uniforms. That's my team. Never changed since then.
Did you know any wise guys up there in Jersey? Because like I picture all of Jersey is like the Sopranos to me.
No, but I love the Sopranos because of, you know, you see the highway and all of that stuff. Yeah, Sopranos was like top notch.
That was a great freaking show. So looking at some of the O linemen here projected by Daniel Oyefusi at the Herald to be, you know, second to third round picks. This guy I do like, and I watched him a little bit in the ACC last year, was Syracuse's Matthew Bergeron. 6'5", 318 pounds. He can play both tackle spots. Obviously, down here, the need is more for right tackle than left tackle. And he is, projected to be a second or third round pick. Some of these other, a lot of these other guys I did not watch as much as I watched Bergeron, just because, Troy, when I'm tuning into like a random, like I watched the ACC more closely because of Miami, and I was doing Locked On ACC as well last year. Like when I'm watching a random other team play, I'm not usually like, oh, let me see what their right tackle looks like. Like it's not, so forgive me here. But TCU's Steve Avila is another one, projected second to third round pick, 6'3", 332 pounds. So he's a big one. A strong run blocker, he writes. He can start at guard. He could also start at, I guess he's not even a tackle. He says he starts at guard or center. I feel like we need tackles more. North Dakota State's Cody Mock, who's 6'5". He's a projected second or third round pick. I'm looking at this dude. Wow. Let me hold on. I don't have it. I'm looking at it on a different screen, so I can't share it. But this guy looks like what I want my right tackle to look like. You see that?
Those guys are humongous, man.
This is a college kid. He looks like a Viking.
Right?
This dude.
Absolutely.
And
got a little nasty streak in him,
And he's a ginger. I don't know how well the color translated from the second screen, but he's got that red hair going on. So he literally is a Viking, this dude. Another one, 6'6", 306 pounds, Jalen Duncan from Maryland. He's a projected third round pick. BYU's Blake Freeland. Oh my goodness, 6'8", 302 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
6'8". Get this guy. Actually, probably too tall. Two is too short to see over this guy.
He probably can't see over him.
No. Wow.
That is amazing. 6'8".
So that one is a projected fourth to fifth round pick. And then I was reading on Dolphins Wire, the Dolphins have met at some point in the draft process. They met with Louisville offensive tackle Trevor Reed, who's got like a lot of the measurables. I guess he's had some injury problems, but he's really looked good, like in the combine and pro day. So he's kind of working his way higher in the draft, but probably a third day guy. So there's a lot of options to chew on, Troy. And I would be shocked if coming out of the draft weekend, if the Dolphins don't spend one of those four picks on an offensive lineman.
I would too. They're definitely going to bring in one of those guys that you probably mentioned to help solidify that offensive line, because they got to do work there. They fired the offensive line coach last year. New offensive line coach is in play. Now you got to figure out what he actually likes, his system, his, just how he goes about doing things, what he asks of his offensive linemen and as individuals. And,
right.
They got to find the right guy, because Miami Dolphins, they just have to, last year was too many injuries, not all over the team, but on that offensive line also was too many injuries. So they got to get a little bit younger there, a little bit more stout there on the offensive line to give them an opportunity, and to win everyone the opportunity to be more successful.
And that's why I think that this draft is so important. I think you need to hopefully come away with a player who in the long term, like not just the next year, but in the next several years, is going to help transform your offensive line. Man, our pal Cap for life, he's calling out your sport, Troy. I'm sorry, I'd rather watch paint or cement dry instead of watching baseball until they get their act straight. I like how the pitch clock, I actually like that. It makes the game.
Absolutely.
I love that.
I invested so much time last year, and now I'm watching the game so far this year, and I go, I like this, man. Let's get to it. Yeah. Keep your butt in the batter's box, pitcher, get on the mound, stop taking all of these like little, marathon walks around the mound. The game
and all the trying to pick somebody off at first and looking over there all the
time. Oh yeah. Oh. Now you can only throw over no more than 2 times, I believe. So yeah, baseball, the people upstairs, they're sitting there saying, all right, we got to do something. Like all these other sports are super fast, entertaining like crazy. And here we are, we look at the stands and no young people here, unless, it's 5-year-old, but most people are like, It's too slow, but
Yeah, no, and it's
the
so
game has
important.
picked up.
It's so important for young kids, and like I'm not saying I like this, but this day and age, everybody consumes entertainment through TikTok format, right? They're looking, it's
And
all
bursts.
it's short bursts, exactly. It's
Right,
short, like people just don't have the attention span. So obviously, somebody like yourself who's been a baseball fan for decades, like you're
right.
grandfathered in. You've loved the sport forever. You're not going to stop loving the
I'm locked
sport.
in.
But
Correct.
I took my kid's not old enough even for TikTok, but I took my 5-year-old out to a college baseball game, a Miami game about a month ago, and it ended up being like a good finish, a walk-off home run victory. But
Right.
that was in the bottom of the ninth. He was bored through
I was
most of
about
the
to
game.
say, was he bored?
He was so bored. He
Wow.
was so bored, and it's like, he may not be the best barometer because his attention span is not that great to begin with, but had we been at a hockey game or a basketball game, he would have been a little bit more
Right.
engaged, right? With
Right.
the
Right.
speed of what was going on, because baseball just there's more time spent with nobody doing anything than with people doing anything, which is not the way it is with the other major sports.
I'm one of those I like to analyze everything. I'm a very deep thinker. And so when I'm watching a baseball game, I don't mind that in the past that it was a slower pace because I'm sitting there saying, all right, they're trying to do this, they're thinking this, they're trying like I just like the complexity of the game of trying to outthink whoever you're playing against. So
That's true. Well,
and like you
you're a
said,
chess man.
I'm yes, I'm a chess man. Like you said, I'm grandfathered in. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I want to remind folks not only should you use prize picks, especially to spice up the championship game tonight, but guys, check out betteredge.com, BETTOR edge.com. This is sports betting with a life hack because it's not a sports book. You're not going up against the house and paying juice and hidden fees and VIGs. And by the way, that makes it fully legal in Florida. You can play fully legal in Florida because they make their money at Better Edge through advertisements on the website. Because the way this works is you're not betting against the house, you're betting against other people. It's a social platform, and you can find the lines you want. So it's sports betting with a life hack. So check them out, betteredge.com. And if you go to betteredge.com/5reasons, they're going to give you a $20 gift and free play money just for signing up. So you want to check that out, betteredge.com/5reasons. Troy, any parting comments before we run? You got any chess games or golf games with Dan Marino happening this week? What's happening?
no, it's been kind of quiet. Last weekend, I enjoyed watching the college basketball, and I'm going to watch the championship game tonight. I'm getting ready to go watch my Mets, but other than that, I'm kind of low key right now.
I got to tell you, we got to bring on, we've had him on the show a couple times, sports betting expert, professional sports handicapper, Lee Sterling. Do you remember when Lee came
Yes,
on a couple times? So I watched some of the opening weekend games of the NCAA tournament at Lee's house. He lives not too far from me. He has the most incredible man cave ever. So
really.
he's got the theater chairs. He's got 3 huge screens on the wall. You can watch 3 different games at once. I didn't want to leave. And the first thing I do is when I get home, I start to tell my wife about this experience. And like, we're like, there's not enough space in our current house to like to even think about like a man cave. All the rooms are accounted
Right,
for, right? But we're
right.
thinking in the next couple of years, we're thinking about moving into a bigger house. And so I suggest
Okay.
I need to have something like this. And she looks at me, she's like, absolutely not. She's like, and she's right. She's like, if you built a room like that in our next house, we will never see you. Like she's worried that my family time is going to go from like 10 minutes a day to 0.
Your beard would be way down here like the prospect you just showed.
Yeah.
Your man cave. You would just lock yourself in there.
I would never
You
leave.
would have rules. Yeah, I think it's a bad idea also.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. I mean, you got you're watching 3 different games at once in the theater chairs. You're double fisting drinks on each, so you get cup holders on both sides. But she's
Yeah,
probably right. I would never leave the man cave if I had one like that.
yeah. I'm not that locked in where I need 3, but that's what his profession is.
Right. So you got to
But I
go because
don't.
he's making
Yeah,
all the bets and stuff. And he's got it. It's
absolutely.
like a sports book. His house. It's basically
Right.
what it is.
Right. You know?
Oh man. So we got to have him back on to talk about that. But listen, a huge shout out and thank you to everybody who tuned in. Remember, you can get the audio version on the 3 yards per carry podcast feed. So make sure you subscribe to that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your pods. And you can get the video version of this on the 5 Reasons Sports Network YouTube feed. He is former Miami Dolphin Troy Stradford. I am long-suffering Miami Dolphins fan, Alex Donno. We will see you guys later on another episode of The Extra Yard here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. See ya.